Welcome back to our third video on mastering the Vertica database. In this video, we will finish the installation that we started in the last video of a single node Vertica database instance. As I stated in the previous video, if you already have access to a Vertica database or do not want to do an installation, I would still recommend that you view this video. It can provide you with insights into how a Vertica installation is performed and the database managed. Before we get into finishing the Vertica installation in our virtual environment, there was an irritating issue regarding the mouse that we need to fix. Installing VirtualBox Guest Editions will get rid of that pop-up message window every time we try and use the mouse in our virtual machine window. In VirtualBox, the top menu has an option for devices. If we click that, there is an option to insert the Guest Edition CD. This is a CD ISO image. Clicking on the Guest Editions option will load the CD drive on our virtual machine. Go into the CentOS virtual window and then log into the machine. Then click on the Files icon on the bottom of the screen. On the left side of the Files application panel, you will see a line for the CD drive. Click on the entry. Click on the Run Software button. You will then get a pop-up verifying that you want to run the software on the CD. Click Run. Since the DB admin account does not have privileges to install the software, you need to provide the root password. Enter the password and hit the Authenticate button. The installation of the virtual guest editions will now proceed. As the software is installed, a number of messages will be displayed. When it completes the installation, hit Return to close the installation window. From now on and going forward, the mouse integration will work much more smoothly. The CentOS server we installed in the last video requires a few configuration changes in order to support the Vertica database. We will need to make a number of setting changes and install some additional packages before we can successfully install Vertica. The Vertica documentation details these required environment settings. Here is a link to the Vertica installation documentation. If, as you are adjusting the configuration settings for your own CentOS installation, the Vertica documentation will provide a valuable resource. The first thing we need to do is to disable the CentOS firewall. The commands to do this must be executed as the user root. The three systemctl commands will stop and disable the firewall. Using the firewall command, you can verify the firewall has been disabled. We also need to disable the SE Linux. Here we need to edit the SE Linux config file. In the example, we use the VI editor. If you are not familiar with the VI editor, there are a number of Google references and YouTube videos for you to learn the basics. Or just use an editor that you are familiar with. We just need to change the line from enforcing to disabled. Vertica requires a number of additional packages to be installed. To install these packages, we're going to use the yum utility. The first package we need to install is the mcelog package. Here is an example of the mcelog package being installed. Now we install the TZ data package. And now we view the TZ data package being installed. The next package we need to install is the dialog package. Here is the installation of the dialog package. We continue with the systat package. The installation should be getting very familiar by now, but I'm including the actual installation process just in case you need a troubleshooting reference in your installation. And finally, the last package we need to install, the ntpstat package. To finish off the packet installation videos, here we see the nptstat package being installed. We need to make some configuration changes to the rc.local file. The changes are a little long and the syntax must be exactly correct, so you may want to pause the video here as you edit the file. The syntax can also be found in the Vertica documentation we previously viewed. In the sysctl configuration file, we need to set the swapness equal to 1. We add the line shown to accomplish this. We need to set the TZ variable to the time zone we are located in. We are in the Central Time Zone, so we assign the variable TZ to the Chicago time zone string. When we installed the CentOS server, we created a user dbadmin. Vertica requires us to create a user group and make dbadmin part of that group. Here we execute the commands to accomplish this. We will use the local host file to associate our node name to the IP of our server. Edit the host file and add the line shown. We are finally done with the CentOS configuration changes. Hopefully, you have already requested your copy of the Vertica Community Edition. When you are approved for the trial, you will be able to download the Vertica software. We need to get the Vertica RPM file we download to our dbadmin home directory on the CentOS server. You have a number of options. First, you can just perform the download from your CentOS server and directly save it to your home directory. Or you can download it on another machine and then copy it over the network to your CentOS server. Another option is to download it on another machine and then create a CDISO file that can then be mounted on the CentOS servers, like we did with the guest editions. We use the RPM command to install the Vertica software package. Here you can follow along with the installation of the Vertica RPM. After the Vertica RPM has been installed, we can proceed with the actual installation of Vertica on this node. Here we show the command line to perform the installation. Here the video details the installation process. If some of the prerequisites previously detailed were not set up correctly, the installation script will indicate the issue. Here is an example of an installation attempt that failed. Note that the error message detailing the issue contains a link to the documentation describing the prerequisite. This makes it very easy to identify the problem and correct it. Now that Vertica has been successfully installed, we need to create our database. Creating, stopping, starting, and other management functions are performed by the Admin Tools application. We use dbadmin to start the application. When you first start Admin Tools, it will look for where the license file is located. Since we are using the Community Edition, we can leave the path blank and just hit OK. We do need to accept the End User License Agreement. Highlight Accept and hit OK. The main menu of Admin Tools will be displayed. The first thing we need to do is to create a database instance. This option is located in the Configuration menu selection. Select the first option, Create Database. Here we are given a choice to create our database in Enterprise mode or in EON mode. EON mode is primarily used for cloud-based instances, and we will look at this in a future video. For now, we will select the Enterprise mode to set up a traditional Vertica database. The database creation process will now walk us through a number of screens to gather the information necessary for the database creation. First, we need to specify a name for our database. For our example database, we will call it Slacker. And next, we need to supply a password for the database. Enter a password and hit OK. On the next screen, we need to select the hosts that are going to be part of the new Vertica database. Since we are creating a single node database instance, only this server is listed. Select it and hit OK. Next, it prompts us for the location of the database directories. Accept the defaults and hit OK. In the first video, we mentioned that Vertica utilized multiple nodes to ensure data safety. However, with a single node like we are creating, there is no data redundancy and loss of data can occur. Here we get a message warning us about this issue. Hit OK. A summary of the database parameters is displayed. Hit Yes to confirm we want to proceed and create the database. Here we can see the actual database creation being performed. Moving back to the Admin Tools main menu, we can now attempt to connect to our newly created database. Select the Connect to Database option. An application vSQL will be initiated. From here, we can execute SQL commands directly in our database. Take note of the \q command. This is what we will use to exit vSQL. Here is an example of running a simple SQL that displays information from Vertica's data dictionary. And finally, we will shut down our Vertica database. Select the Stop Database from the main menu of Admin Tools. The terminal screen video details the database shutting down. Hopefully, everything went smoothly and you now have your own Vertica database to help us learn about Vertica. In the next video lesson, we will look at how to load data into our database and start learning the details of the Vertica database. Thank you for joining us in this journey into the details of installing Vertica. I hope that it was useful and educational. Please look out for future videos and continue to join us as we detail the Vertica database.